this is James here with the Oracle Outlook for the week starting January the 20th, 2020. I just realized there's a lot of 20s in there. That just came to me. Thanks so much for tuning in and joining me for this week's video reading. I am so happy to have you here. This week's deck choice was quite easy to make. I'm literally going with the deck that's on the table at the moment. I just got off of a Skype call with one of my clients who's in the Netherlands, and for her session, she wanted to work with the Gypsy Witch fortune-telling playing cards. So that is the system I'm going to be working with this week. Specifically, I'm going to be working with my favorite set of Gypsy Witch cards, and that is the vintage Gypsy Witch fortune-telling oracle cards. They are by Lynn Boyle, and as always, I will be leaving information about the deck in the description box below so you can learn more about it. So now that I've set things up, let's get to the table and take a closer look at what the vintage Gypsy Witch cards want to tell us about the week ahead. And here we are with the cards on the table, and we're going to take a few moments to shuffle the deck. And as I shuffle the cards, I'm focusing on my usual intention for these weekly general readings, and that is for the information and for the insight, for the guidance and advice that is going to be most helpful and beneficial to come through the cards regarding the upcoming week. Getting one more time will be good. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut the deck. And fan the cards out. And now I'm looking for 5 cards in the fan that are getting my attention. I will be working with a line of 5 again this week. Alright, so I have the 5 cards selected. Now I'm going to take the remainder of the deck up, and we'll move that to one side. I'm going to count back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now I'm going to lay the line out from left to right. Alright, now of course I'm going to straighten this out. Alright, so I'm working with the Gypsy Witch cards for 2 reasons. The first being is that I, over the course of the last week, have been getting a lot of requests based on my playing card, my Cartomancy with playing card series, about doing readings with playing cards. And so the interesting thing about this deck is that it has playing card inserts, so I will be using those for this week's reading. And then for those people who don't find reading playing cards all that sexy, we have an image on the card, so that will hopefully interest those who want to have visual imagery or a symbolic imagery on cards when they're reading them. So we're going to read the symbol on the card and the playing card insert. Okay, so let's start with the card on the far left, opening the line up this week. We have the coffin card, and we have the insert of the 5 of spades. So it's going with the symbol first. The coffin, for me, can represent something coming to an end or some stage of completion. Those are my keywords for coffin: ending and completion. It could also be that there may be people who are dealing with an illness. The coffin card for me can represent an illness, and that would make sense this time of the year. I know lots of people who are dealing with colds and the flu, things like that. So there is that, and we'll see what the next card has to say in regards to that. But again, endings and completions, it could be finalizing something, illness, along those lines. It could also be about needing to get rest. If you're not ill, you're not fighting a cold, or you're not dealing with the flu, then it could just be giving you a heads up that you may need to kind of get some rest, kind of unwind, kind of relax, kind of slow down, right? Coughing could be a week where we're being encouraged to, maybe along the lines of eliminating things, right? What is it that we can stop doing, right? Because I'm seeing in my head the idea of like not doing anything, so maybe the beginning of the week we decide to allow a day to be a do nothing day, right? And then choose not to feel any guilt or get yourself worked up if nothing, quote unquote, nothing got done that day or those days, right? So again, my chief meaning for coughing can represent ending and a completion of some kind, or something being finalized or terminated. Now, let's turn our attention to the five of spades. For me, spades is the suit that can represent problems, challenges, and difficulties. So, with the five is a number of change in how we handle things, because the five is a number for the hand, if you go with the idea that there are 5 fingers on a hand, right? So at the beginning of the week, with the playing card insert, we're being encouraged to handle a problem, a difficulty, or a challenge. And it could be, with the coffin being thrown in to the mix, it could be handling it so that we end it, we resolve it, we complete it, right? So there is that if we combine both the symbol and the playing card insert. But the five of spades, again, is about handling a problem, handling a challenge, handling a difficulty. It's also, for me, because the suit of spades can represent the mind, it's about a change in mind, a change in thinking, a change in mindset. So it could suggest that if we need to complete something, if we need to finalize something, if we need to terminate something, it may require a change in our thinking in order to make that happen. Right? And it could also be a change in how we're handling it. Maybe what we've been doing up to this point hasn't gotten us anywhere, right? And so maybe that may be where the change needs to come in. Going along with the problem aspect of the suit of spades, whenever I get the five of spades, this could represent a problem that has an end result of independence. We are learning through a problem how to stand on our own feet, right? And so for some people, that may be the case, right? Bringing something to a close, but you may find yourself having to do it independently, which means that you don't get any help, support, or assistance. But the lesson in it is that you learn how to cope with your own problems, how you handle your own problems, and you learn to stand on your own 2 feet. But it's usually as a result of a challenging experience. So those are the ways that I would look at the five of spades and the coffin. So now let's move on to the next card. Coming up here we have the lady card and the 2 of diamonds. So the lady always represents a woman. So this could be an ending for a woman, a stage of completion for a woman. So if you're watching this video and you happen to be a woman, then the lady card is referring to you. If you are male, then the lady card is representing somebody who is significant to you, right? So now with the lady card not facing the coffin, whatever this completion or finalization or termination is, it may be a struggle for her to deal with it because she's not facing it. So for me, that sometimes can represent what is a challenge, what is a struggle for the person. So there may be a challenge around completing things, right? So you may have your mindset, five of spades, on what you need to complete this week, and there may be some struggle in getting those things accomplished. The other thing I'm looking at with the line is about completing something or ending something from the past. Something may have been left over from the past, something unfinished from the past, and this is the week where you have to make the decision to get that issue, that concern, resolved. Now, another thing that's coming to me in the moment could be an idea about leaving something in the past. I'm looking at the coffin. If we go with the idea that this is the past because it's behind the woman, it's about leaving something dead and buried. Right? So it may be a nod or a message about not resurrecting the past. Leaving the past dead and buried is what's coming to me in the moment. So that's how I will look at the combination of coffin and lady. If we turn our attention to the two of diamonds, the playing card insert, for me that usually represents a payment. So there may be something having to do with how we handle something of a financial nature or how we handle a payment of some kind, specifically going with the two of diamonds being about a payment. When I get a spade and a diamond as a combination like this, it can usually represent a financial challenge or a financial problem, right? So again, it would have to do with a payment of some kind. Now, if we go back to coffin, and coffin can represent an illness, and here's where I have to put my disclaimer. I am not a doctor, so I cannot offer any kind of prognosis or diagnosis, but the two of diamonds in relation to that can represent something having to do with food or the stomach. So if somebody's dealing with some kind of illness, it could be stomach related or it could be food related, right? And it could also be maybe needing to change one's diet in some regard or to some degree, going with the idea that, again, this can represent food. One thing that I'm seeing here is that the two of diamonds can represent an invitation to lunch or dinner. And so maybe that's where we may need to finalize that kind of plan or those kinds of arrangements, coffin, or that we have a change of mind about an invitation to lunch or dinner, the two playing card inserts. But for me, it's making me feel like my first go-to was about how we handle a financial situation, and it's about a payment of some kind. So that's how I would read the two cards. So now let's move on to the center card. For me, the center card always usually represents what we need to focus on or the issue at hand. So taking a look at this card, we have the eye and the four of spades. Okay, so I'm going to go with the four of spades first. The four of spades for me is a card that is known as the sickbed card. So it reinforces the aspect of coffin where I talked about an illness. That's the same aspect here with the four of spades. It can represent an illness. Now, if I go with the playing cards, we have a spade, a diamond, and a spade. For me, that represents financial ups and downs because we have the diamond in between two spade cards, right? So there's, for this week, for somebody, there's going to be financial ups and downs, and it could represent having to make choices or decisions about what's going to get paid. So I'm seeing that as a possibility here if we go with the money aspect. But again, four of spades could reinforce this idea about illness, and it may be something food related or something having to do with the stomach. Now, the four of spades can also turn up when we're at a period in time where we're needing to take a look at, how busy are we? Because the four of spades can be a request to slow down. One of its meanings is that things are slowing down, or that if we're the type of person who's always running, then this is about exhaustion. And then here with the two of diamonds, then this is about energy balance, because the two is a number of balance, and then the suit of diamonds for me can represent power and energy. So for some people, if it's not about an illness, and it may be more about, would you be willing to consider slowing something down? And it could be slowing yourself down, right? Now, if we go with the eye as the symbol, then it would be keeping an eye on something, right? That's usually my first go-to meaning. It's like, what do we need to keep an eye on? What do we need to monitor? What do we need to observe? What do we need to be on the lookout for? What do we need to keep an eye out for? Those kinds of things. Right now, for me, the eye is also a very spiritual symbol. And for me, it can represent vision, right? And so it could be vision in the literal sense, like, eyesight. And it could be like maybe as I mirror the cards, there may be something going on with someone's eyesight if I mirror coffin and eye and the four of spades and eye, right? So this could be a week where maybe somebody might put the energy into having their eyes checked, getting their vision tested, that kind of thing. So that was the literal sense. Now, in the maybe psychological or mental sense, it could be getting us to focus on our vision. What do we envision? Maybe as a chapter or a stage in our life comes to a close or comes to an end, coffin, especially if we're a woman or for a woman, then it's about what do we have our eye on? What's our vision going forward, right? What do we envision? Right? And especially if we're needing to complete things or wanting to finalize something this week, it may be a matter of like keeping our eye out, keeping our eye on something, right? It's making me feel like the message here is like don't lose sight and don't lose focus, right? And so I'm seeing an angel in my head. For those of you who have been with me for some time during these weekly readings, you know that I'm an angel person. And so the angel that I'm seeing in the moment is I'm seeing Archangel Metatron, and I'm specifically seeing an angel card that has the word prioritize on it. And so for me, one of its meanings is it's about being focused and getting organized. And Archangel Metatron is directing my attention back to the Four of Spades in that regard, because the spades being a suit that represents problems, challenges, and difficulties, the four is a number of order, structure, discipline. So there may be a challenge with that, and that may be where we need to keep our eye out or keep our focus on. Right? So just threw that in there. And if you work with angels and you're feeling like being focused and getting things organized is a challenge for you, you can call on Archangel Metatron to assist you. Right? If you are completing something or wanting something to be complete, Archangel Metatron is also telling me that if you work with angels, you can have Archangel Metatron assist you in having your field clear. He helps clear our energy field, right? Remember, this is about energy balance. So if you're feeling a depletion in your energy, you could ask Archangel Metatron to clear your energetic field. So those are two ways that you can work with Archangel Metatron, okay? So now the spiritual sense, and this is another aspect of Archangel Metatron. In the spiritual sense, the eye can represent, second sight. So this would be for the person who is psychic or intuitive, but specifically clairvoyant, right? So that's what I see with the eye. So it could be somebody is either one or two things. Either they're wanting to open up that faculty because the eye is open, or they want to shut it, which is the coffin, right? Or it could be something that was closed or closed off in the past, and now for some reason it's becoming activated or reactivated. But if you are a spiritual person, then this card is asking you to start paying attention to what it is that you see clairvoyantly. And then with coffin, I'm being told to say, if we talk about this as being rest or sleep, start paying attention to what you dream, because dreaming is a visual medium. And so my phone just beeped because I forgot to turn it off. So that is acknowledgement of that point. So pay attention to your dreams, especially the symbolism that recurs or repeats, because you may learn more about, I'm being told, your spiritual ability through your dream time. So that's what I would say about the Four of Spades and the eye. So let's move on and take a look at the next card. Okay, so here we have the Scythe and the 10 of Diamonds as a playing card insert. For me, the 10 of Diamonds can represent material success, so it's very interesting. We have a pattern here. We have a spade, a diamond, a spade, a diamond. So again, there's this idea about financial ups and downs, financial challenges for people. The 10 of Diamonds in that regard can represent a lot of money or an investment. It usually represents financial success or material success, but with the spade coming before it, there may be a problem with trying to save money because this would be a challenge. And then the 4 is a box or a container, so is the coffin. So there may be a challenge with trying to save money. So I'm seeing that with the 10 of Diamonds. Spiritually speaking, since I just talked about this idea about being intuitive and being clairvoyant, the 10 of Diamonds in that regard can represent someone who is able to contact the spirit world. And that would make sense with the coffin and the eye coming before it, right? So someone is being encouraged to develop that talent, that ability to connect with the spirit world. And it's making me feel, in particular, it's about helping people deal with maybe losing loved ones, coffin, maybe those who have passed or on the other side, and bringing the energy, diamonds, of those people bringing that energy in for people who are still on this side of the coil or this side of the veil. So I'm seeing that. Now, if we go with the idea that this is talking about illness, the coffin, and the four of spades, for me, the scythe card can represent surgery. It's one of my cards that can represent a surgical procedure. So again, it could be somebody's dealing with an illness and it may lead to surgery because there's been a period of time where they have been monitoring it, keeping an eye on it, observing it, because I'm being shown the word observation, right? And it may be as a result of the observation, it's leading to the idea of possibly needing to consider surgery. Now, because the eye can represent something literal with the eyes, it may even be, I'm seeing something like the idea of like somebody having to do with maybe cataracts or LASIK surgery, right? So somebody who may be needing to have their eyes examined, or they know that they have a condition with their eyes, it may lead to surgery, and it may be related to either glaucoma, cataracts, or LASIK surgery is what I'm seeing. Right? And for the person who may be wanting to work on their clairvoyant talent or ability, this bodes well because the scythe is pointing away from the eye, and so the eye is closer to the wheat on the card. That usually represents something that is being harvested or something that's growing abundantly, right? So it could just be if you're putting your focus and attention on this particular talent, you may reap some kind of benefit or some kind of reward, or I'm seeing like the fruit of your efforts pays off, and that would be the diamonds. Diamonds represents rewards and things paying off. So I'm seeing that with the combination here. Now, if I bring the scythe back into that, it's about wanting to make a particular talent or ability more precise or accurate is what I'm being shown. Now, an interesting thing that's coming up to me in the moment, so I'm just going to go with it, with the two of diamonds, that's about, balancing money or sharing resources or financial help or assistance or support. Here, with the 10 of diamonds and the scythe, I'm reading these two together, it makes me feel like there's something about money being divided up. So for someone, there may be something having to do with an estate, going with coffin, maybe someone's passing, and needing to divide money or assets or resources up. That's just coming to me in the moment. Okay, and so now the last card. Rounding out the line, we have the park, and we have the 9 of clubs. Okay, so the first thing I want to say, going with the playing card insert, whenever I get a clubs at the end of the line, and we've had spades showing up in the line, this usually represents whatever the problem or the challenge is, it gets worked out. Because the suit of clubs for me can represent work and business, so it usually represents things working out. Right? And so if we're having financial challenges throughout the week, maybe towards the end of the week, or as we resolve that situation, it does work out. Now, very interestingly enough, going with the symbol, the park can represent other people. So it's very interesting. I had just talked about money being divided, and here we have something having to do with other people. So it could just be money being divided, and there's other people who are involved in that situation, that experience, that concern. Right? And for some people, if I go back to my very first idea about like things slowing down, getting some rest, relaxing, unwinding, then the fact that the blade is pointing towards the park, this would be cutting out or eliminating social activity, group activity, being out in public, that kind of thing. Because whatever the blade cuts into is what is being cut. So for some people, they need to maybe cut out either a particular social activity or, reduce or eliminate their being out in public and, hanging out with other people, that kind of thing. That's what's coming to me in the moment. Now, going back to the 9 of clubs. For me, one of its meanings can represent time and distance. So for someone, and it may have to do with maybe an illness, a health challenge, a health experience. When I see this card at the end, the 9 of clubs, it usually represents something that, has gone on either for a long time or it's been a long time coming. We're being asked to consider how far we've come in terms of making progress. The suit of clubs is all about progress, and then the number 9 is about attaining something. So this is about attaining some kind of progress. right? So it's making me feel like if there is a particular health challenge or an experience and we get it handled, and this card might suggest sooner rather than later, we might get to see the progress that we've made through our effort, right? If we go with the idea that clubs represents work, that's a pun for effort, right? And here we have diamonds and clubs as a reward for our efforts. We might get to see how far we've come. Now, in a spiritual sense, this can be a card that talks about our spiritual journey. I tend to look at this as either an emotional journey, psychological journey, or a spiritual journey. And so even with those three different aspects of the journey, it could be, again, taking note about how far we've come, right? So maybe if you're in a particularly challenging situation and maybe you're trying to look ahead and seeing how far you still have to go in whatever your experience is, the cards this week are encouraging you to maybe consider taking a look at the past and seeing how far you've come, because you've made a great deal of progress and you don't want to inhibit any work you need to do going forward. It's making me feel like if you acknowledge the progress that you've made, that will help motivate you, that will help inspire you, that will kind of light you up and keep you moving. Right? We don't want you to get stuck in a rut. We want you to keep moving, right? So there's that. Now, if I go with the idea that the Nine of Clubs is the time and space card, and we go back to the eye, and the eye is all about sight, it's making me feel in terms of maybe someone's spiritual growth and development, and maybe having to do with their clairvoyant ability, being able to see or envision things. Then there may be something that you're going to receive in terms of how we see time. I'm seeing a particular card in my head. It's an angel card, and it's called Synchronicity. And in it, the illustration has multiple timelines or time streams. So someone may come into a greater awareness about this idea of time as an idea or a concept, right? So there's something of that. So that's a little out there, but my job when I'm doing these readings is just to deliver the message, and I always find that it resonates with at least one person. So for that one person this week who may be seeing things on a clairvoyant level or clairvoyantly, is that you may receive guidance, or you may get to see, and I'm doing see in finger quotes, something having to do with the concept around time. And on that note, I will go ahead and end this week's Oracle Outlook reading here. I'm Jameson Mitchell, and I'd like to thank you for sharing space here with me and giving me the gift of your time for this week's reading, and I look forward to sharing the same space with you again in our next video reading together. So until then, I'm hoping that you have a wonderful day, and I'm hoping that you have a wonderful week, one in which you get things done and you keep your eye on the prize. Take care.